Information that we're tracking from across the world. After US President Donald Trump imposed sweeping cuts on foreign aid programs, more than 80 Afghan women who fled the Taliban regime for higher studies in Oman stand to return to Afghanistan. These women's scholarships were funded by the USAID, federal agency that is now at the brink of shutting down amid Trump and his ally Elon Musk's decision to eliminate over 90% of foreign aid contracts. Now, the scholarships were abruptly terminated after the United States president imposed the funding freeze while taking charge of the Oval Office. My colleague Aditya is still with us on the broadcast to share more details. Aditya, over to you. What are the ramifications of the fresh decision, especially by the Department of Government Efficiency that is helmed by Elon Musk?
Well, if you see, Dodge has been, cutting the foreign funding. If we recently saw that the Trump administration has, disbanded the USAID, and many employees of USAID were, sacked. And, currently, very few handful of the employees are working in USAID, So at this critical juncture, these Afghan women are, have returned to US, for, pursuing their education. This is something which needs to be seen as to how will these Afghan women will they be given education or not? This is a question because, so far what we saw, when the Biden administration had, botched up the entire Afghan withdrawal. So now it needs to be seen. It is very uncertain that, that these Afghan women will be, assimilated in the U.S. education system in their higher universities. Now it needs to be seen which path will the Trump administration take in this regard. We know, there are many Afghan refugees who have still been living in the United States still since the day the U.S. had done its withdrawal from Afghanistan. Yes, Pia.
All right, Aditya, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. With that, we're shifting focus to the Middle East, particularly Syria, where more than 1,000 people, including 745 civilians, have been killed in the 2 days of clashes between Syrian security forces and fighters loyal to the former Bashar al-Assad regime, and the ensuing revenge killings, one of the highest death tolls in Syria since 2011. Now, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a UK-based monitor, has stated that 745 civilians were killed mostly execution style, while 125 Syrian security forces and 148 Assad loyalists were also killed. With me on the broadcast is Colonel J.S. Sodhi, International Affairs expert. Sir, good morning. Thank you for joining us on NewsX, and thank you also for waiting rather patiently. We've seen over the last couple of months how the Bashar al-Assad regime collapsed very swiftly in a matter of merely 2 weeks. His regime fell down, but his loyalists are still there, and we're being told that more than 1,000 people have now been killed. So the bloodbath has not stopped in Syria. Where do you see the country headed towards?
Jai Hind, Priya. It's my honor to be on your esteemed channel. Last year on 8 December, when the Assad regime fell in Syria, it was widely hoped that probably peace would return to Syria after a long time. But still peace remains elusive in Syria because the way the clashes have taken place in the two coastal towns of Syria yesterday, which has left over 1,000 people dead, clearly shows that Bashar still enjoys a great support and following in Syria, though he has fled to Russia. In fact, yesterday, many towns in Syria saw protests by the Syrian citizens asking for the Russian intervention because they feel that Russia can give the Syrians a better peace security blanket than any other country. So in a nutshell, it would be very safe to assume that Syria will see more bloodbath, more mayhem in the days to come, because clearly the country is divided between the support to Russians, support to Assad, and the HTS forces which are now in power in Syria, which are being supported by the Americans, by the Israelis. Clearly, there is going to be a lot of chaos and mayhem in Syria. Well, it is now up to the international community, especially the United Nations, where they have to boldly step in and ensure that no further loss of life takes place, else Syria will go from bad to worse.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for joining us live this morning, sharing your perspective on these developments in Middle East. We are yet to see